Thank you everyone for tuning back in. Today we're going over something that's very important to all of you, and that's wheel fitment. Today we're going to be reviewing exactly what it takes to run wheels like this and have great fitment, and what you can do to replicate it for your suspension setup. As you've seen in the last few years, I've ran multiple sets of wheels, a lot of them being BBS of course, and that's kind of why I made myself this shirt. So today we're going over kind of the nitty gritty and what you can do to run this yourself, and go over the specifics of what it takes to do it. So of course, one of the most important things is seeing exactly what you want in terms of ride height and everything. So I always recommend running coilovers. What I have on here to recap are Fortune Auto 500s. These are 8 and 10K rates. What's different between a lot of other companies is like KW, Bilstein, what they actually give you usually from factory is about 6 or 8K. So it's gonna be a little bit softer, and it's not really gonna be as accommodating for aggressive fitment like this. Not to mention they're not really valved to be run this low, so you have to kind of play within what you have or what you want to run on the car. Even things like Ohlins, etc., they're not really meant to be run this low. So kind of Fortune Autos and some other companies are really good to do this. Next, if you're running coilovers, we're going to be working on exactly what type of fitment you want. Do you want to have flush fitment? Do you want to have a meaty tire or not? In this case, I'm kind of doing a bit of a combination of both. I like having a little bit of an exposed lip. So for this setup, this is a 19 by 10 and a 19 by 11. In the front, I'm running a 245, and on the rear is a 275. I did actually a write-up exactly going over what you can do to perfect this fitment, so I'll be attaching it in the link below. But today we're just gonna go over a little bit more exactly what it takes to get this 100%. Overall, what I would recommend for this car is at least having a 235/35 in the front, or a 245/35. In the back, I don't really like to run anything less than a 275/30. Many fitments that I'm gonna be actually recommending, you can fit a 285 no problem. So the main thing is kind of figuring out what you want in the car. If you want to run 18s or 19s, I don't really recommend running 17s or 20s. Those are kind of a little bit off for the car. One other thing that actually makes it a little bit more complicated depending on your brake setup. So if you have a big brake kit, then you're going to have to accommodate certain wheels and whatnot. So for these ones, I do have a Brembo GT, and for these RS 714s that I had to run a 15mm spacer for the front, and then I'm running about a 3 and a 5mm in the back just for fitment. So one crucial piece is clearance in the rear. What you really need to do to get any fitment remotely close to this, or have comfortable fitment without any rubbing, is shave your rear fenders. So as you see, I run the key here. There's tons of room. I can actually pretty much get the whole key sideways through here. So thank you to my friend Kenny. He's the one that actually shaved this for me. He did a really good job. So if you ever want to get this type of fitment, or run without any rubbing, then you definitely have to shave your rear fenders. If that's out of the question, then a lot of these fitments and stuff that I'm recommending aren't going to work for you. So the next thing is really choosing what width you want to run. I usually recommend running anywhere between a 9.5 and a 10.5 in the rear, or going for 9.5 and 11. In this spec, I went for 10 and 11 because I knew I wanted to run a 245 given the aggressive fitment on these. So this one's kind of an outlier, so don't take this one too close to heart. But essentially, your best bet is to go for anything that's around a 10 plus 25, or a 9.5 plus 25 or so. And then in the rear, you want to match it the same with a 10.5 or an 11. Run that plus 25 or plus 27. Offsets are really important. What an offset is essentially is how far off the face is set from the middle of the wheel. So if we're going to the wheel itself, we're talking about the backing. So if we go behind it, we're talking about how far this sits off the central hub. So looking at this diagram, we're looking at the differences between positive, 0, and negative offset. So it's very rare to find any wheels that are truly at 0. Most ones that you'll find are going to be on the positive side. So this is showing a diagram of monoblock wheels, so factory wheels. As you can see, the positive one doesn't show much of a lip on the curb side, so that's why. But in most wheels that you'll find for the E46 M3, they will be positive, roughly around the 20 to plus 30 range, and that's kind of what we're working with. The only time you really find anything on the negative side, that's going to be for a wide body car, and that's when you see the massive lips. When you're going for fitment like this, it's also very important to have good turning radius. So this one actually turns really nicely. Only at full lock does it have minimal rub, so you have to decide whether or not that's important to you. So I'm going to be attaching a few different specs as well. So it's going to be for normal, kind of sport, and then aggressive, and that's what I have written up in my forum guide. Now moving on to a very important part of the car, and that's wheel alignment. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is it's very important to have camber plates if you want to have any correct fitment on the E46 M3. If you were to just run springs, or let's say get a coilover kit that did not have the camber plates, then you're kind of bound to about negative 1.5 degrees in the front. If you remove the strut guides, then you can get a negative 1.8. As for the rear, you do have a bit more room where you can get up to negative 2.3. So in this diagram, you can see what it shows is positive versus negative camber. Factory, you do run roughly around 0.5 to 1, so that's what you're going to be finding on the standard alignment sheet. But if you do want to run something that's a bit more aggressive, you can expect to run anything between a 2 to negative 3. On my setups, I'm running about negative 3.3 and max negative 2.3 on the back. So if you look at the write-up I have, it's going to show you a bit more on exactly what you can do to fine-tune and get that perfect fitment. One thing that's really important with camber is that's going to tuck the wheel in a bit more from the top, and that gives you a lot more turning radius. While you are doing your suspension upgrade, I do recommend doing a few things. That includes doing the strut tower reinforcements as well as the rear. They do have a rear shock mount also that you do at the top, and then for the bottom there's also a lower spring perch one that I recommend doing just so you kind of avoid any future cracking risk. So looking at the forum guide, I have everything written here to help you out with the fitment that you're looking for. So on here I have that basic guideline of going for about a 1.5 inch stagger with the same offset and the same camber. This is set up for coilovers as well as a follow-up for setup with springs. So you can follow this and it should kind of guide you to perfection. It really depends what you're going for, like I mentioned earlier. So use this as your guide and you shouldn't have any problems. Well, hopefully that provided some insight on what it takes to run fitment like this or close to. If you guys have any questions, please drop them below, or you can check out my Instagram for my highlights. I have all my wheel fitment in there. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to DM me. Thanks guys. And to finish off, here are a few other great setups I run on my other cars.